My name is Shanna. I am the Customer Education Manager here at Droplet. I'll be providing this training. This is specifically for platform administrators to help them get started. Of course, we will always provide support for any questions that you need. I am recording this session so that we can share this on our documentation page for people to be able to reference later, and I'll send out a link to this recording so that you can share that with anyone in your organization that may need this information. I will also be adding helpful links into the chat as we go through. For anybody who is new or newer to using the Droplet platform, today's webinar will provide you with an overview of its capabilities and some ways clients are setting up their organizations that may be similar to how you'll be using Droplet. This training will help you strategize utilizing Droplet at an organizational level to manage your forms, submissions, users, and data sets. Please reach out to us if you would like to have a conversation around specific processes you are currently using and how they could be transferred to Droplet. Today, we're going to take a tour of the Droplet platform and focus on how you can set up Droplet for your organization. This will include a short overview of what the people who will be managing submissions can do, as well as how to organize forms and set user permissions. If you are going to be processing submissions, you may want to join us for our Getting Started with Droplet webinar that is tailored to submission managers. You can sign up for that using the link here in the chat. You're also welcome to share this link with your colleagues that you think might want to attend as well. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat as we're going through this session, or feel free to email us at support@droplet.io. I'm just adding that link into the chat. I want to touch base on user permissions here at the beginning. When you first create an account on Droplet, your permissions will default to the lowest level, which gives you the navigation menu here on the left. Many of you may have had your permissions updated during your kickoff call with us, so you may already see a navigation menu on the right already. If you log in for the first time and see the menu on the left, it's likely that your permissions haven't increased from the first time your account was created. You may have someone managing these permissions for your organization. Please reach out to them to get the correct permissions added to your account. Many of you may have only a few options, depending on your organization's account management strategy. So you might have a menu that looks something in between these two, or very similar to the one on the right. We can look a little more at creating custom permissions later, but I wanted you to know that that is a possibility, and that the view that you decide for people will be customized. So I'm going to throw that into the chat. If you do not know who is managing user permissions for your organizations, feel free to reach out to me in the chat right now if you aren't seeing the menu on the right here, and you should be. Your colleagues, or maybe even some of you who wear many hats, will be spending a lot of your time on the All Submissions page in Droplet. Here, we consider these submission managers, people who are viewing the submissions that come in for your forms. They will process the submissions from that All Submissions page here in Droplet. You can tailor which submissions are visible using the account permissions, which I will get to a little bit later. I want to get you started thinking about what permissions you would like available to users as we're going through this training. So depending on account permissions, those working here will either see every submission to every form your organization has with Droplet, or a limited number of submissions that are filtered by form or some other condition. And they may have a limited set of actions available depending on their permissions as well. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time going over the actions available to submissions. That we'll spend more time on that in our submission manager training. But I wanted to briefly go over them so you are thinking about what you would want your users to have available to them. So on the all submissions page, you're able to see the status of the submission, the form name, who submitted that submission. And if I scroll down here, a lot of these are not started, which means it is a draft and no one has submitted it. So those are blank here. And then it will show you who it's assigned to. And if you have any information from a form that is lifted up to this all submissions view, we call those submission tags. You will see them here as well as the created and updated dates. If you want to be seeing more from a submission, so these what we call submission tags. In this example, we have the school, employee name, and request amount. Depending on the form that's there, you will see values. You can talk to an implementation consultant, reach out to us at support@droplet.io. If you're working with somebody, ask them about this functionality. This is something that is built into the forms themselves, so that once a submission comes through, the information for that submission is shown on this all submissions page. You can use the search and filter to find a specific submission here or a specific type of submission. So if I want to see only the completed submissions for a certain type of form, and I can see all of those here just by filtering, or I can search for specific people or specific words that are in the form themselves. And then you have access to this actions menu. So if I just have the completed forms, and I am going to go back to that specific form actually, you have actions available to you when you select these. Oftentimes data needs to be moved out of Droplet, either by downloading it as a PDF or exporting it as a spreadsheet. Those options are available here. You may need to check the where a submission is, so within the activity log in its workflow, or to reassign that submission so that somebody else can complete that specific step in the process. You can send, so if I want to go to in progress, submissions, you can send reminders about in progress submissions. And you can also archive submissions here that are completely processed. This is sort of a soft delete. You can find archived submissions by changing your view to either all or archived, which will show you all the submissions, including active, or just the archived. All of these actions can be individually given or revoked when we get into creating permissions. So if you want only certain people to download or certain people to archive, that's something that you can set at the account level. And real quickly, I'm going to give you a link in the chat to an article and then some of the information that we just covered here. The next area we'll look at is the forms page. There is a lot of overlap in who needs to manage the forms on Droplet. So we're going to cover some of the functions here to get you started on thinking about how to organize things both here and in your accounts page. Before we jump into that, the most important function as you start using Droplet is how to find the link to submit a form. Oftentimes, school districts share these links by replacing the old links on their websites with this new Droplet form link. But you could also add a view-only permission to the forms page so that all users by default, so you don't have to update those users, they have access to this by default, could come here and view the form to be able to create their submissions. The links to these Droplet forms will never change no matter how many updates you make on them. So wherever your form is in its update process, wherever it's at, you can grab a link here by either clicking view form and grabbing that link in the URL in the page that pops up, or selecting this hamburger menu and clicking copy link, which will give you the link to that form in your clipboard. If your form should only accept submissions during a certain time frame, such as for job applications, you can manage that here too. Instead of removing the link from your website, you can simply come to this three-dot menu and deactivate the form or disable the form so that when somebody tries to click that link, it will say that this form is currently disabled. And when the time comes again to enable it and open it back up for applications or whatever the process may be, you just come in and enable that form. There are some aspects of the form page that you may want to develop a strategy for managing if you are planning to have many forms or many users on Droplet or many different departments utilizing Droplet. One of these is the name and description on the form card, which is this block here we call the form card. You can update the form card here and add the description. This will update the card for everyone in your organization. And you come in here, you can update any of this information. These toggles here will provide a authentication when trying to access that form, so they have to log into Droplet to be able to even view that form. Some of those this is often used for like reimbursement forms or timesheet forms, and it will populate the submitter name and the email already once it authenticates them as a logged in user. And then toggling this on allows them to view the form. And if you want them to only be able to submit, you would toggle that back on as well. So those are some updates you can make within your form card to your forms themselves. Another organizational tactic you may want to use is considering setting up tags. You can see that there are already a few tags set up for within this organization. One of those is a department, which we often use if you have multiple departments using Droplet. You can set up a tag for each department and assign the forms that are for each of those departments here. Then you can easily filter by that tag to show only the forms for human resources or finance or whatever it may be. You can also, when we get to user permissions, you can limit who is able to view forms by that tag value so that only human resources department is able to access the human resources forms. There's really no limit to how you can organize this, but that is a quick tip on how to do that. And the best way to do it is selecting the form or forms you would like to add tags for. Select the actions, either add tags or manage tags here. Then you would choose a label, a name, the category of the tag that you would like. And if there is a new type of tag category, you can create that here. Or you can select from the options already there and then give it the value. And you want that to stay consistent so that when you are filtering, you don't have to filter for HR and to filter for human resources, because those won't be seen as the same thing or different values. So, and then a couple more links for you here in the chat, so you can save those or open them up in new tabs to be able to reference later. Okay, so now we are getting into accounts and permissions. Perfect. I will go ahead and look into this after this session if you want to hang on. Otherwise, I could send you a follow-up email. But thank you. Please add any questions or comments into the chat, and I will take a look at those as they pop up. So one of the other areas in the Droplet platform where you can use tags to stay organized is in the accounts tab of your organization. So if you are managing users, you'll probably spend a bit of your time in this organization page, maybe the accounts tab here. Here you can add users manually by sending them an invite with their full name and email address. Or if you are using SSO for logging in, users can add themselves by logging in with your SSO at app.droplet.io, and it will add them automatically to your organization. You can add the same tags that we used in forms here to indicate which accounts are in which department. For example, this allows you to filter to just see the accounts that you are hoping to within each department, whatever tag you have set up. Just like on the forms page, you're able to filter. The other important task for our platform administrators is to think about what permissions they want for different types of users. You may already be familiar with our general outline of some of the common user types and permissions, but if you haven't, there will be a link in the chat. Thinking about what your colleagues will need to do on Droplet will help you set the correct permissions for each account. And this can range from simply using the pre-made roles already set up in Droplet to creating fully customized roles for each of the types of users in your organization. There are 3 pre-made roles currently. So we have the default role, which is set to anybody who logs in for the first time. They can see only their submissions, so if it was initiated by them, and any assignments that they have. They can't see anything else. Sometimes districts will decide to update this role to include the forms at view level with the view permission, so that they can, first time that they log in, they'll be able to see forms and be able to start submissions right from Droplet instead of accessing an external link. So that is something that you can do by adding that permission here. The other pre-made roles here are admin, which gives you a variety of permissions, but not quite all of them that you'll see for the owner who has all permissions for everything. The owner is the highest level of permission and should be assigned to the overall Droplet platform manager. This may be the role that you have. This is the person who will manage Droplet for your organization. In larger organizations, there may be more than one person with this role, but limiting this will help you keep track of who can assign permissions, manage data, and keep your Droplet account and your submission data more secure. That admin role doesn't include packets, data sets, and permission management. So you'll see those as being one of the biggest differences between the owner and admin role. Sometimes these roles are sufficient depending on the level of security your organization requires and how large your team is. Sometimes you may need more specific roles or need to edit the default roles to have a different set of permissions. This is all at your discretion. So however you manage this, we'll happily support you in it. Some people like to edit their provided roles. Maybe everyone should have view-only access to the forms page, so they add this permission to the default role. Others have packets on their contracts, so they allow admin users to manage packets by adding these permissions to their admin roles. You can see that it has been added to this admin role. If editing the default roles doesn't provide enough flexibility, you can add roles and fully customize them to match your needs. There are a few examples of custom permissions that can be created for different scenarios. We often see a dataset manager, a form manager, a location-specific admin, so central office admin, such and such school admin, and bulk submitter. So there are two different ways to create roles. One would be if you want to modify an existing role to only be a little bit more specific. You can duplicate a role and then adjust the permissions here, changing the name, changing the description, adding a color here. Or you can start from scratch and add a new role. This comes with the defaulted permissions, but I want you to know that roles do stack. So if you keep that default role on each account, you don't need these, and you can do more specific permissions and role, more specific roles and permissions that will just stack on top of each other. So like we said, the dataset manager would only have access to the dataset portion. So you may have somebody that has multiple roles, and that's just fine. We are available to consult on your permissions. If you'd like to have a conversation with us about the roles you're considering, just let us know. There are a few things that that might be dependent on somebody who has created your forms, who has access to build your forms, such as limiting the number of submissions based on a submission tag. So if you remember, we had a schools tag, an employee name tag, and an amount, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but I can limit access if I want somebody to be able to view, download, export, assign to, but only for a specific school. I'll put the tag name in here. And then I think one of our examples is Oahu as a school type. So anybody at the Oahu school will see the submissions and be able to download, export, and assign for only those ones that are that people have selected Oahu in that submission. So we are available to help you consult. If you want to start messing around in here and creating roles, you'll have a better idea of what the capabilities are. I also am going to provide a few links in the chat that walk through creating a role, adding it to an account, and the different permission types, as well as a few examples in there. And just in the last little bit, I want to talk about packets and data sets. So depending on your contract, you may need to manage permissions for and create, assign, or monitor the status of packets. If you have packets in your contract, you'll also see packets in this navigation menu, where you can track the completion status of assigned packets or create new packet templates. that you can reuse. You can also assign a packet to somebody by clicking that start packet and choosing who it would go to. Creating new packet templates here, and then managing and tracking those packet progress within this page here. You can also see packet permissions when we are back in that organization. So you can select a group of people to be the packet manager if you create that type of role. You may also have data sets available to you depending on how data is being used by your forms. These may include a list of administrators by location, job titles for options and drop downs, salary schedule, or really any large amount of data that might change. You can update these depending on your permissions with this builder button. This is one of those permissions that we strongly recommend that you limit to just 1 or 2 people who understand how it works or receive training on how it works. And we do provide a data set training monthly. This month is the exception with the holidays and the break. So look for that in next month's offerings. So all of the data that powers your forms, that gives options to your forms, that determines the routing for your forms is typically here in this data sets page. And when you update this, it will update for the forms that this data set is being used for automatically, which may affect multiple things. And so that's why we want to encourage you to limit that to people who understand that. If you don't see data sets in your navigation menu, please let me know or email us at support@droplet.io or talk with your implementation consultant as you work on your forms. We know you're putting in a lot of planning here as you shift over to the Droplet platform. And as you make these decisions and start to use these forms, please visit our help center by clicking this question mark icon at the bottom left-hand side. And that can be seen not just in that data set, but anywhere you are at within the Droplet platform that will be available to you. And that opens our documentation articles. We also provide multiple trainings monthly and are available with any questions that you have. We want to support you in the best way possible. So just email us at support@droplet.io. We love working with you and hope that this is one way we can make sure that you get everything that you need from Droplet.